and welcome to the September 2022 edition of the Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Outlook video. My name is Agathe Demarais and I'm the Global Forecasting Director at EIU. I'm joined today by John Marrett, a senior analyst in our Asia team based in Hong Kong. Today, we're going to discuss a white paper that we recently published about potential sovereign debt crisis in Asia. So, John, I'm going to turn to you for a first question now, a scene-setting question. Which countries in Asia are most at risk of sovereign debt crisis, do you think?
So in Asia, the riskiest countries, well, we could start with Sri Lanka, but that country is already in default, technically. But that's a good example to start with because it's in a precarious position prior to the pandemic, as are other countries now most at risk. So Pakistan is in a similar boat to Sri Lanka, one of the high-risk countries. It's got very low public revenue. It's already enrolled in an IMF program, in fact. Laos is another country with a different set of circumstances. It has substantial contingent liabilities. These are SOE borrowings for large domestic energy projects, which make up the bulk of its revenue. So it's heavily indebted on that front. And this also makes sovereign debt sustainability dependent on timely rollout of energy infrastructure to ensure that there's a steady stream of revenue from that industry. Mongolia is another one in a weak position. It's got various warning signs, widening current account deficit, high inflation, depreciating currency. It's been supported by high commodity prices for the most part of the pandemic, and it doesn't have major external debts coming due in the next 5 years, but even though the risks are far from immediate, it is still very vulnerable. If there's any line to be drawn across all of these countries in terms of causes, they are quite a mixed bunch, but one particular trend that has weakened their positions is the sharply higher cost of imports. So this has made balance of payments positions more fragile and put downward pressure on local currencies. I think the trend to watch going forward is inflation. If this stays higher for longer than we currently expect, then this could put these countries in a very difficult place in the short term.
Okay, so beyond Sri Lanka, we have Pakistan, Laos, Mongolia. And what would be the impact of sovereign debt crisis in any of these countries?
Well, the obvious impacts would be the restructuring process, which would entail also some fiscal consolidation that weakens public spending and in turn can constrain economic growth for years to come, in fact. This in turn can slow reductions in poverty and slow the expansion of middle classes within that country. Also, you have this stigma associated with default, which means it's going to be more difficult for many years to borrow for these countries that renege on their debts. That again makes it difficult, fiscally speaking, to move forward. I think there's a lot being said about China's role as a creditor, but there is a risk of overstating this for Asia. This idea of debt trap diplomacy, it's a very catchy concept. But I think more important is the wider changes in creditor composition that we've seen in the last couple of decades. So not just China joining the fray as a major international creditor, but a bigger role for private creditors too. So this can prolong the restructuring process, drag out the negative impact, the severe impact that you see in the immediate wake of any default, and which we are seeing now in Sri Lanka, and we expect to continue into 2023.
Thanks so much, John, for your insights. Thank you for watching us today. You can always find our latest insights, including our white paper on potential sovereign debt crisis in Asia on our website, www.eiu.com. Thank you for watching us and see you next month. Goodbye.